For a long time, I thought the reason that I wasn't building anything outside of my job was because I didn't have the right idea. I kept telling myself that once I figured out the thing, that I would go all in. But the real truth is that I wasn't building because I didn't even have the capacity to do so. This video is for you if you know you want more than your job, you feel stuck, quitting isn't an option, and you need clarity on your next move. So you're probably spending a lot of your spare time right now trying to figure out what is my thing. So for me, how that showed up was when I graduated from college with my engineering degree, I kept going back and forth between, am I going to learn stock investing? Am I going to do real estate? What am I going to do and build outside of work? I've just always known I wanted to do something else. And so I dabbled in both of them, but never really jumped off the porch, so to speak, with either one of them. Like I did loads and loads of education, a lot of watched a lot of other people, soaked up a lot of content about what I should do. And then I realized that I was still stalled and I'm like, I haven't made a move. What's going on? And that's when it became abundantly clear to me that I didn't need another idea. Both of those options were great ways to build income and wealth outside of my job. I just needed to execute on one of them. I think a lot of people find themselves in that same position. They know they want to start something. They know they want to do something more with their spare time and they simply can't decide. They got 5 or 6 different options. And now it's even worse with so many people on the internet telling you all these different ways to make money. There's AI businesses, there's still stocks, there's real estate, there's personal branding, there's social media, there's influencing. Like there's so many more ways to make money now. And there's so many more people talking about how they make extra money and how they build income and how they're building wealth that I think now a lot of people are just in an analysis paralysis stage when the reality is that it's not about the idea. It's possible to make any situation work, right? You can make money in all of those different avenues if you have the right situation and setup. And so I think for what most people don't understand is that it's not about the idea. It's about picking one that fits your life and your lifestyle and executing on it. And the biggest thing that's stopping you from executing on any of those ideas you have is that you have not set aside the time, the space, the energy. You have not built the capacity to do that. And I think that's what's interesting with a lot of people who want to build something outside of their corporate job or even think they want to be entrepreneurs full time is they don't even have the space to do so. Like have not even thought about it. So when you really try to break that down, everything becomes so overwhelming. Say you want to build a personal brand and become an influencer. Well, you're saying that and daydreaming about that while you're sitting at work. But then you get super overwhelmed because then you start to realize that I don't have the time. And then you start to feel like, how much is this going to cost me? Am I going to lose money? Is this risky? Where am I even going to find the time to and the energy to record and create content and do all these other things while I'm still working, while I'm still maintaining all of my home responsibilities? And so you start to realize that it's not going to be easy. And for most people, that's when they stall. That's when they do nothing. When you should really be asking yourself, when do I have the time, energy, and with what money can I make this happen? So, like most people, I thought that my job was the issue, that I couldn't get my stock investing off the ground or my real estate portfolio. I couldn't get off the ground because I was spending my time at work. And then I realized that there are a ton of hours in the day. I'm only at work for 8 hours. So, what am I actually doing with all that other time? And at the time, I didn't have kids, I didn't have a partner, I was single. It's just like you have loads and loads of time. So, the first thing I did was I left social media, and this was in 2011. I was absent from social media from 2011 to 2019, and I mean shut down accounts. No Instagram, no Facebook, no Twitter, shut down all of my accounts. And then I started to see that without all of those distractions, I had a ton of time. Like I would get off work and I'd have like 3, 4 hours to just think. And then I took it a step further and I'm like, if I have all this time to think and map and plan, like what if I actually started executing? What if I started doing? But with that free time, my newfound free time, that's when I started dibbling and dabbling and doing all of my fashion things. I followed that passion. But the passion that I followed wasn't what was important there. What was important was that I had figured out how to work a job and then give myself my own job and follow my own passion and follow my own thing without having to separate the two things. Prior to leaving social media and pretty much isolating myself for a while, I thought that I needed to quit my job. And that was the only way that I could make any side project successful or find the time and space to do it. After that, I realized that no, I just needed to carve my time better. So now I understand that you can do both, and it's a matter of finding the time to do so. And then what happened next is while I'm still isolated from social media, I go get an MBA and I finish my MBA and then I take a new job and I double my income. And so that was the second lever to drop. So the first lever was now I have time to do something else. The second lever is now I have money to do something else. So now my dreams of being a real estate investor are actually possible, right? I have time to scout properties and talk to real estate agents and run numbers and do all sorts of analysis. I have the time to do that because now I'm not distracted with social media and I'm not in the habit of spending 4 to 5 hours just scrolling my phone. Like most people, I'm just not in the habit of doing that. So I have all kinds of time. And now I actually have funds so that if something that I have mapped out, planned out, found a property, found an opportunity, now I can actually pull the trigger. And so the real key is that I didn't have a perfect plan and I didn't have the perfect idea. But once I created the time and I created the money to take action on something, it seemed like everything just fell into place. It was almost like the universe was saying that you have to learn these other lessons before I can even give you the opportunity that you're asking for. And that kind of reminds me of I did a video recently about how I spent $20,000 in 1 year on business coaching. And in that video, I was kind of sharing a similar thought that people are jumping steps and skipping steps trying to get to business coaching and trying to get to the end result, but you have not done the prerequisites. Like you don't have the things in place to even make the result possible. And I see this all the time. People are attending webinars, they're buying courses, they're jumping into education first, and then they end up doing nothing because they realize nothing else is in place to do so. And actually, I don't even know if they realize why they're not doing anything, but the reason you're not doing anything and you end up stuck is because you don't have proper clarity, you overthinking, you're consuming a lot of content, and you haven't created the capacity. I personally know people who bought courses about stock investing 4 and 5 years ago, and they still have not executed a trade. And clearly they know how, right? Because if you bought a course 4 years ago and you soaked up the content, you know exactly what to do. And if that's you, trust me, you are not alone. I have also bought courses that I have not done anything with. But when we know better, we're going to do better. And once we have soaked up the information and we've got a plan and we have a remote idea of something we could take action on, when we are stalled and we're not doing anything, it's not because maybe it's not stock investing, maybe it's not influencing. It's not the thing. It's your ability to execute on the thing. And the easiest way to execute on something is to first create the time, the space, the energy, and the money to do so. And so instead of trying to become the person with the perfect idea or the perfect plan, I think you should be spending your time becoming the person who can actually execute on those ideas and plans. Because once you build up that muscle, it really doesn't matter what the thing is. Like, people want to create content. A lot of people quit because it gets hard and they don't want to be consistent. People want to lose weight. They go to the gym a couple times. They realize it's hard and they can't be consistent. It's in every aspect of life. You have to become the person who takes action and executes on ideas. I spent years becoming the person who could create capacity and then execute. Fast forward through my social media isolation, I come back in 2020. I have my son in 2019 and For some reason, having a kid made me wanna get back on the internet. I don't know why. It was like it just felt like I wanted to see what other people were doing. I started a private Instagram account for my son, and that was my first kinda peek back into the world, like, "What's going on? What are people doing?" And so in 2020, I had the bright idea that, "Oh, I'm gonna build my personal brand." Because now I'm seeing people who were just starting out back when I left social media, like, and I'll just Maddie James, for example. Maddie and I met in like 2010, 2011 at Fashion Week. Here I fast forward all these years, I come back to social media and Maddie has like hundreds of thousands of followers. And I'm like, what in the world has gone on since I've been away? And that's when I really picked up. I'm like, no, you just can't quit these things. Like, I was actually thinking to myself, I'm like, what if I had kept blogging all these years? Like, I would have had 10 years of experience being a blogger, and maybe my fashion dreams would have actually came true. But I went down a different path. But now I'm seeing all the influencers who were around from back in the day before I left, and they are like have all kinds of audiences, like built their platforms crazy. And I'm like, I've met these people in real life. I know I can do that. So I start building my personal brand, and I fall into the same trap as everybody else. It's hard. I can't sustain it. I stop, and I just keep resetting, and I never build momentum there. And so even this channel is a function of me still working that muscle to be consistent, to share my stories, to share my experiences. Now that I'm over 40, I have a ton of experiences to share with people. And I think the key that I understand now that I did not understand back in 2020 when I first got on the internet, back on the internet, I should say, is that capacity. Like, I have forgot the first principle. I have forgot the first principle of capacity because now I'm working a job. I'm a mom. I've taken on all these, and now my real estate portfolio has grown tremendously. We're up to 90 units, and I just have way more responsibilities than I had before. But I forgot to go back to first principles. Do you have capacity to build this personal brand? What system have you put in place to be consistent, to stop starting and resetting? And so it's like most people are stalled because they're waiting on the perfect idea, not realizing once the idea hits you, you still need to create the space to do it, and not just the space to do it, the space to be consistent. Because without the consistency, you never build momentum. And when you don't see momentum, you eventually stop, the idea collapses, and you blame it on the idea, not realizing the idea was perfectly plausible. Where you failed was the capacity to bring it to life. Similar to previously when I got off social media and I had to figure out how to find time to map out, world domination. This time around, I needed to find space to feed my personal brand. Like, how can I consistently, what time do I have to put towards that? If it's going to cost me to have an assistant to help me bring that idea, how much is that going to cost? Do I have the money to put towards that? Do I have the energy between all of my other responsibilities and this goal to bring it to life? So now you see it's much, much bigger than one roadblock. Oh, I don't have an idea, or oh, my job takes up all of my time. I can't do it. You have to have all the pieces of the puzzle lined up and ready to roll. So, what I want you to take away from my personal experience is that stop asking what you should build. Start asking, do I have the capacity to do it? I always recommend everybody who says they want to build something outside of their corporate job, they want to build wealth, they want to do something. Have you figured out how to carve an hour out of every day to work on something you're passionate about? If you haven't figured out how to carve out an hour, I want you to stop trying to figure out what it is you want to work on, and immediately start trying to figure out where is that hour every single day. Because think about it, if you can give something an hour every day, that's 7 hours a week. A part-time job is 10 hours. That's a lot of energy that you could put towards something that otherwise would seem impossible and overwhelming because you can't find, it's like my entire day is eaten up. Your entire day is not eaten up. Everybody can find 1 hour. And if we're being honest, money is just as important, right? Because like I said, I have time to record and I have time to get my ideas out, but I might not have time to do all this social media activity, the clicking, the uploading, the this, the that, the that. I don't have time to do that. but I can find somebody to do it for me. But now the question becomes, do I have the money to do that? And money unlocks quite a lot of things because now money is buying me time and money is now reducing stress. And if money can buy me time and it can reduce stress, which ultimately gives me more energy, it seems like money is the great unlock. And I think there are a lot of people in this country who are stressed right now about money because everything is so expensive. It's a very interesting time to be alive, and money could be the stress reliever that everybody is looking for. And so for me, my stress reliever is costing me a couple $100 a month, right? That's just one way that I'm buying energy and time back. And so with so many different things going on in the economy right now, the job market is crazy. Everything is super expensive. It's important for us to realize that money is just as important as time when it comes to building your capacity. So if you're sitting in your good job, you're feeling stuck, it still doesn't seem like enough money. Your problem is not that you don't know what to do. Your problem is that you don't have the capacity to do something about your situation. The second thing to unlock the money piece is go find the extra money. And that's where most people get stuck. They don't know how to look at their financial situation and figure out, how can I carve out $1,000 a month? I did this exercise just for myself this month. I had all sorts of people I was paying to do all sorts of things. And it's like, if I need to carve out $1,000 a month, if that means I need to wash my own hair once a month instead of going to the salon multiple times, if that means I need to cut back on my laundry service, if that means my cleaning ladies can only come once a month instead of multiple times a month, it's like, where can you find that extra money? Trust me, it's there. And that's exactly why I built the Cash Kit. I launched the Cash Kit late last year when I was sharing, how do you actually go about building a real estate portfolio? How do you even buy your first property? And the first unlock is having your money in order. So I built the Cash Kit to help people organize their money, to free up cash, to build reserves, and to start to look at what number, what dollar amount is actually going to make me feel like I'm building towards something. So if you're trying to be an influencer, maybe it's $1,000 a month. If you can make that extra $1,000 a month, every month, that's successful. And what I will share is that when I first got into real estate and my first property, the idea was just to pay for one bill. I bought two buildings at once. And the idea was that if I can make $500 a month, there's no car payment. And then you keep stacking, keep stacking. So I think that's another thing that's holding people back. They think that I'm going to out the gate start this six-figure business and I'm going to I'm immediately going to replace my income, when that also is not what you usually happens. It's a stair step approach. So it's like, your first goal is to bring in anything, cover a bill, cover the next bill. And before you know it, you look up and you're like, my paycheck is pretty much mine to play with because I've put all these other things in place. And so when I look back on my trajectory, before I could build anything of value or anything meaningful, I had to get my money in order. And the Cash Kit allows you to do just that. I will share the link in the description. However, I want you to remember, it's not about not having a job. It's not about not having a boss looking over your shoulder. It's not about having the perfect idea to execute on. It's about building the time, energy, and most importantly, money to execute on something. It's like, pick something, anything. Everything you might choose to build outside of your corporate job will have its challenges, and everything has its own specific nuances to it. But the reality is that if you stick with something long enough, you will be successful and you will have figured out all the challenges that there are to it. And that's when, the consistency starts to pay off. And now your job is becoming a tool. It's becoming the fuel that you can use to further your money, further your ideas, further your goals. Because I think a lot of it is that while you're working, you do need more of your money working for you because you don't have all the time that a person who is a full-time entrepreneur, you don't have the time that they have. You have to level yourself up by buying your capacity and being able to be in more than one place at a time. So before you quit your job, get your time situated, find your energy to execute, and get your money together. That's all I got this week, guys.